Okay. Okay. Es ist gelegen in Gottes Koyach zu beschaffen die Welt und es sagt andere Welten. It was in God's strength. God had the strength to create the world and a lot of other worlds. Aber wir soll hat gekonnt sein Ort für die Beschaffung, wenn Gott allein hat alles ungefüllt und nicht übergelost, kein ledigen Städter äußer ihm. But what would be the place, or what would be his place? What would be the place in the world if God alone had filled it and not left over any empty space, outside of himself? In other words, if he had filled the entire world. Es soll können zustande kommen a Welt, in order to create, in order that there come into being a world, hat der Allmächtige, the Almighty One, sich gemusst einschrumpfen. He had to diminish himself. Vertunkeln sein Licht, to diminish his light. Wenn nicht, wollt alles Beschaffenen geworden verbrennt und verblindet. If he hadn't diminished his light, then everything would have been burnt and blinded, I guess, by the glory of his light. Soll gemult sein a Welt, in order that a world would be created, hat Gott gemusst schaffen a Blois und a Finsternis. In order to create the world, God had to create a gap, Blois, used like that, and a darkness, an emptiness and a darkness. Das is das eigene, was schlecht und sind. And this is the same as bad and sin. So in God's reduction of himself, there was place now for sin and bad.
Evil.
Wickedness, evil, good, evil. That's a better way of putting it. Was ist denn der Zweck von der Beschaffung? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of creation? Freie Willen, free will. So once there was created these additional places for evil and darkness, then there had to be free will. Der Mensch muss allein auswählen zwischen gut und schlecht. The man, the person himself, has to choose between good and evil. Darauf ist herabgekommen, aher von unteren Kiste HaKoved. For this is why he came down from the holy place. I guess that isn't God coming down. This is man coming down from the holy place. A Tata kann tragen sein Kind. A father can carry his child. Aber begehrt soll allein anheuben gehen. But he desires that the child would be able to go, would begin to go himself, to begin to walk himself. Gott ist unser Vater, God is our Father. Wir seien seine Kinder, we are his children. Hat uns lieb, he loves us. Bencht uns mit sein Gnade, he blesses us with his grace. Aber lässt uns teilmal fallen und sich ausglitschen sollen sich zugewonnen gehen auf der eigene Fies. So even though he loves us and he blesses us with his grace, he allows us to sometimes fall and to slip, so that we learn to go on our own two legs. Aber sein Auge wacht über uns, und wenn wir seien in Gefahr, reinzufallen in a grove oder a Netz, but he keeps a watch on us. And when he sees that we are in danger of falling into a pit or a net, häupt uns auf in seine heilige Arme. In those moments of danger, he lifts us up in his holy arms. In draußen hat geglitt der Frost, outside the frost glistened, aber in Scheil is nicht gewesen zu kalt. But in the granary, it wasn't too cold. Wanda is gelegen neben Jacobin. Wanda was lying right next to Jacob. Ihr bosom zugedrückt zu seinem. Her bosom was, I guess, intertwined, very close to his. Ihr Mäul gegen sein Mäul. Her mouth directly against his mouth. Hat gerät, und sie hat übergeantwortet. Übergefragt. He spoke, and she, I guess, asked questions. She followed it up with questions. Wenn hat ungeheuben Schmusen mit ihr von die Dosiker verheulenischen, hat sich allein gehalten für Hanal, a pushe Yisrael. When he had begun to talk to her about these secret or concealed matters, he had thought of himself as a fool, or apart from being a sinner, a criminal, posher, a sinner. Wie kann go a peurischer Moach begreifen a seine Tiefkeiten? How was it, gore there meaning totally, I guess, how could such a peasant brain totally understand such deep matters? Aber Leute ihr übergefregenischen ihrer, aber Leute die, but according to her questions, hat Jakob eingesehen, wahrscheinlich, als sie benimmt seine Werte. But according to his her questions, he saw that she apparently did grasp his words. Sie hat a viele gefreit Kasches, was Jakob hat nicht gekonnt euch sie entfernen. She even asked questions that he could not answer. Ob de Chayes habe nicht kein freien Abkleub, verwus leiden sie schmerzen. If the animals don't have this free choice, this freie will that he was describing above that man has, why do they suffer pain? Oi blois die Jiden seinen Gottes Kinder. If only Jews are God's children, zu was teugen de Goyim? What is the value of the non-Jews? Sie hatte ihm zugepresst, so stark, als hat vernommen das Klappen von ihr Herz hinter der Brust. She pressed him so closely that he could feel the clap, it's not clap, the beat
Beating.
of, say again?
The beating of her heart.
The beating of her heart under his, under her breast, under the breast. Die Hände ihrer haben sich wie eingeklammert in seine Rippen. Her hands seemed to like clamp down on his ribs. Ihr Durst noch wissen, ist schier nicht, one of those wonderful negatives, schier nicht gewesen azoi mächtig wie die Lust zu Leib. Her thirst for after knowledge was almost as powerful as her lust for the body. Hat gehört, wie sie fragt. He heard the way she asked, wo ist in the Neshama? In the organ? Where is the soul? In the eyes? In the organ? In the Gehirn? The soul is in the eyes and in the brain. Sie belebt dem ganzen Guf. I guess it is, I don't know what the word belebt means, part of the whole body. Part of the whole body. Wo geht die Neshama, wenn der Mensch stirbt? Where does the soul go when the person dies? Zurück rauf in Himmel. Back up to heaven. Hat a kalb a neshama? Does a dog have a soul?
Is a calf.
Oh, a calf. That's right. Does a calf? That's right. So that makes more sense with the rest. Thank you. Does a calf have a neshama? Nein. Blois a nefesh. Nope. Only a what would you say, a nefesh, a life force. It's not a soul, not quite a soul. Wo kommt es hin, wenn mir keulet das Kalb? And what happens when you slaughter the calf? Talmud geht es rein in den Mensch, was estos. Sometimes it goes into the person that eats this calf. Nu, une chazir hat es euch, and a pig also has this. Yeah. What questions? Nein, ja, etwas muss es haben. He doesn't know how to answer. Yes, no, it has to have something. Varus tol a Yid nicht essen kein chazer. Why can't a Jew eat pig? Es is God's Gesetz. It's God's commandment. Zoe is sein Willen. That's his will. Welch wären Gottes Tochter, wenn ich will annehmen Jüdischkeit? Will I become God's child, God's daughter, when I take on Judaism? Ja. Und wirst es tun mit dem ganzen Herz. Yes, if you do it with your whole heart. Ja, Jakob, mit dem ganzen Herz. I do it with my whole heart. Du musst es tun nicht, weil du hast mich lieb, nur weil du glaubst in ein Gott. You shouldn't do this because you love me, but because you believe in God. Ich glaub, Jakob, ich glaub. Aber du musst mich lernen. An dir bin ich blind. I believe, but you must teach me. Without you, I am blind. Gita, you want to read now?
Before you start, can I ask one small question since I missed 2 weeks? all of
Well,
that,
I mean, you could ask millions of questions about this.
just the philosophical thoughts that we were reading before we got back to Wanda and Yaakov, were those Yaakov's musings or the narrators?
Uh, I, I assumed it was Yaakov.
Oh,
Thank
Yaakov.
you.
Yeah.
I think the great thing about this is he captures Jewish thinking before the Shoah. Um, this is what religious communities believed and spoke about.
Believed in what? I mean, I don't want to get into the philosophy because we'll use the whole time for that. Believed in what? Believed about God and his reduction of
Yeah,
himself.
this was part of the folk belief of the communities um, in Eastern Europe. And I think he captures the language of that time. This is what they spoke about. Um, and he's dealing with a time when certainly not only Jews, but everybody else had unusual thoughts about the world around them. We're talking about the 1600s.
I think that there are still many people who believe that God reduced himself in order to create the world. And I don't think it was just, but let's not get into that. It's
Okay. Wanda hat gewebt a Plan. Wanda came up with a plan. Sie wollen zusammen entläufen von dannen. They are going to run away from here. Sie kann die Berg zwar a Christen ton nicht annehmen dem jüdischen Glauben, aber sie wird sich verstellen für a jüdischer. She knows the woods, the forests. A non-Jew, Jewish woman, is not allowed to take on Jewish beliefs, but she would pretend pretend that she's a Jewess. Sie wird abstellen die Haar und nicht mischen kein Milchigs mit Fleischigs. She would cut her hair off and keep milks and meat separate from one another. Yaakov, wird sie auslernen reden Yiddish, and Yaakov, would teach her how to speak Yiddish. Sie hat gleich jetzt verlangt, soll sie lernen. She immediately asked him to start teaching her Yiddish. Sie hat gesagt a Wort auf Polish und hat es ausgeteilt auf Yiddish. She said a word in Polish and he translated it into Yiddish. Breut is chlieb, Vol is an ox, Stol is a tish, Lavke is a bank. Bread is chlieb in Polish. Vol is an oxen. It is a vol in Polish. Stol is a table. Stol in Polish is a table in Yiddish. Lavka is a bank. Lavka in Polish is a bench. Und wie is a koza? A koza is of Yiddish euch a koza. And I don't know what a koza is, either in Yiddish or in
a
Polish.
goat. A goat,
goat.
isn't it? Yeah.
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 Okay.
So
And what do you call a koza or a goat? A goat is a goat in Yiddish and in Polish. So Yaakov gesagt. Yaakov answered. Und wie is a dach? And how do you say a roof? A dach is of Yiddish euch a dach. A roof in Yiddish is also a roof. Wie is das gemalt? How is that explained or painted or characterized?
Possible.
Possible. Thank
possible.
you. Hat Wanda gefragt, Wanda asked him, is Yiddish das eigene Wort Polish? Is Yiddish the same as Polish? Yaakov hat geantwortet. Yaakov answered her. Wenn Jiden haben gewohnt in Eretz Yisrael, haben sie geredet die heilige Sprache. When Jews lived in Eretz Yisrael, they spoke the holy language. Das Loschen, was Jiden reden heint, is genommen von anderen Lashones. The language that Jewish people speak today is taken or mixed in with under other languages. Warum sind in die Jiden mehr nicht dort? Why are Jews no longer in the land of Israel? Weil sie haben gesündigt, because they sinned. Was haben sie verbrochen? What did they break or destroy? Gedient die Götzen, bereut die Ormeleit. They worshipped idols and robbed poor people. Nu, und jetzt tun sie das mehr nicht. And now, nu, well, and now, do they not do this anymore? Die Götzen dienen sie schon nicht. They don't worship idols anymore. Und was ist mit die Ormeleit? And what about the poor people? Yaakov hat geschwiegen a while. Yaakov stayed quiet for a while. Gegen die Ormeleit is men noch als nicht gerecht. With the poor people, we haven't made our proper way yet. We haven't corrected ourselves yet with that. Wer ist gerecht zu die Ormeleit? Who is proper? Who is treating them properly? Who is treating the poor people properly? Die Porerimlach arbeiten a ganz Jahr und gehen borvis und nackt. The peasants work a whole year and still walk barefoot and naked. Zagiatz tut nicht kein Hand in. Zagiatz never puts his hand in kalt Wasser, aber nimmt alles zu die beste Chavuya, die schönste Behemoth. He never puts his hand into cold water, but he takes everything to himself. The best earnings, is that earnings, Chavua?
Grain.
It's
Is wheat.
grain.
Oh, grain.
Okay, and the schönste Behemoth and the nicest animals. Der Mensch wird für alles abgeben rechnen. Man will pay for everything, pay his dues in everything. Then, Yaakov, meiner, when, my Yaakov, and where will this happen? Nicht auf der Welt, not in this world. Nu, ich muss gehen. Es heute schon bald on Tagen. Nu, I need to go now. Sunrise is starting to appear. Wanda hat zum letzten Mal gekuscht Jakobun. Wanda kissed him the last time. She kissed Jakob the last time. Sie hat sich angehangen an sein Hals, sich eingebissen in sein Maul. She hung on to his neck and kissed him on the mouth. Das Ponem erst ist wieder geworden heiß. Her face became red again or flushed again. Sie hat sich abgerissen und ist weg. She pulled herself off of him or tore herself away and left. Sie hat etwas gemurmelt bei der Tier, geschmeichelt, schmevdik,
Shaman.
Shemevdik und voilerlich. She muttered something to herself at the door, smiled to herself shyly and pleasurably. So hat in draußen nicht gescheint kein Levone, aber von dem Schnee ist a Weile gefallen a Schein auf Wandas Fies und auf ihr Ponem. Outside, the moon was no longer shining outside, but there was a shine or there was a shine or a sparkle shining from the snow that had fallen on her feet and on her face. Sie hat der Mond Jakobon als die Meises wegen der Lilith, was kommt in die Nacht zu manselt und tut sie warum reinigen. She reminded Yaakov about the stories about Lilith that you would come in at night to waylay men. And reinigen, what does that mean?
Well, unreinig must be uncleanliness.
So,
Waylay them, lead them to trespases?
Mansult is sexually violate.
Yeah.
Sexually violate and make them unclean.
Okay.
Unreinigen, and they would be unclean. Yeah.
I just mentioned the boilerish because it goes back to Joan's question about
well, and we'll see vivoil right here again. Yeah.
The boilerish in this context probably mischievous in keeping with the impudence of
the boys of the Voiler Jung.
Yeah. Okay, so Vivole hat schon gelebt mit ihr Wachen. However long he had lived with her desires, hat die Avire jedes Mal ihm von Sneis aufgescheuert. However long he lived with her desires, the transgressions, each time the transgressions took over, made him shiver. Is that right?
No. From Snai. Well, first let's just do vivoil. How did you translate it, Gita? Even, you said as long
I said,
as long.
Whatever however the pleasure he took from her desires, no?
However long he'd lived with her for these weeks, he's already lived with her these weeks. What had the Avere yet a small from
from anew.
Although he had lived with her.
So there it's although.
Oh, okay.
It's although.
The sin,
that's why.
Every time the sin shocked him again, horrified him again. The sin
from
of
Snai, with each time it was new, it was refreshed, so to speak.
So even though it had been going on for a while, it struck him as new every single time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the word vivoil is although.
Yeah. Wie soll ist das geschehen? How did that happen? A Jahr lang ist beigestanden dem Nisim. For years, he wie long?
He stood up to the test.
He stood up to the test. I'm sorry, I'm a bit.
He resisted.
I need to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay. The test.
And what is Nisim?
The test. In this case, the test. The temptation, or the test. It was earlier in the text also where he talked about how Yosef, when he was tempted and had to stand up to the test. This is the test.
Mit Amol is herab von der Medarge.
Madriga.
Madregen, what is das? What is the Madrege?
Means a step or a level.
A level. He.
So at some time he had risen up from the level.
He'd gone down. He came down. up would be Aruf, and Arop is down.
came down. Aha. Zeither, hat angehäuben die Liebinischen mit der Wandern, ist mehr nicht gewesen der eigener. Once he had begun his love affair with Wanda, he was no longer his own person. He was no longer alone.
He's no longer the same person. He was no longer, he was no longer the same person.
Okay, thank you. Oft hat sich allein nicht gekonnt. Often he didn't know himself. A Steger, wie die frierdicke Neshome, wollt von ihm rausgeflogen und halt sich auf wie beschäftigt mit der Ruchheim.
Ruach Chaim.
Ruchheim. Could somebody else translate that sentence, please? Often he didn't know his own self. And then could somebody help with the rest of it?
As if the previous soul,
a friediker neshama, an earlier soul,
as though his
blown
earlier soul
away from him, and he is sustaining himself like a creature with ruach chaim, with spirit of life.
Thank you. Hat gedavend, aber on kavona. So he prayed, but without, what is kavona?
Concentration, devotion. Kavona.
Without concentration.
Yeah.
Hat noch als von Mal zu Mal gesagt, Kapitel Tehillim oder gehazert Prok Mishnayos, was hat gedenkt von uns Neuwerek, aber das Herz hat recht nicht gewusst, was die Lefzen bringen arois. I'm sorry, but I need help with that sentence too.
Okay. So he would, from time to time, say a chapter of Tehillim, or he would say a parak of Mishnayos, but he knew by heart. But the heart didn't know what the lips were saying. It was totally divorced from. He was just saying words that didn't really mean anything to him. He was different now.
Yeah. Etwas in ihm ist geworden verstoppt. Something in him was, what is verstoppt? Crushed?
Locked.
Dull.
Sorry?
Dull. He'd become dulled.
Become dull.
Blocked. The man was blocked.
Hat aufgehört brummen und singen die alte Nesonim. Nigunim. Okay, he heard the old religious chants singing, and what is brummen?
But it wasn't he had stopped.
Humming.
He stopped
humming.
He stopped his singing of these old religious tunes. He was no longer doing those things that he had done before.
Yeah. And what is brummen?
Brewing can be roaring, but
It can be roaring, but it's not in this case.
in this case, it's more like mumbling or
Yes,
Or
okay,
humming.
thank you.
Humming, or,
Yeah,
you know, the way we hum nigunim as we go along. Don't we all do that?
of course.
Yeah.
Nice. Hat sich wie geschämt zu trachten wegen dem Weib. He became ashamed of thinking about his wife. Die Kinder, die alle Kedoshim, was die Heidamakes haben umgebracht. The children, who are the Kedoshim?
The holy ones,
The martyrs.
The holy ones,
the holy ones, the martyrs, right?
which the Heidamakes, what were the Heidamakes?
Those were the Cossacks who, or this is
Cossacks.
right after the Khmelnytsky
Pogrom.
massacre, and
Right.
that group was the group that carried out this
So they had
atrocity.
umgebracht, they had killed them or carried them away,
no, they killed them.
They killed them.
Killing.
umgebracht. Wie gehört sich on mit sei? I almost understand every word, but I'm not getting the whole
How
stuff.
does he relate? How does he relate to them? It's actually he stopped. He was ashamed to think about his wife and the children and all the holy ones whom the Cossacks had killed.
Yeah.
What's his relationship, Geherrnis? What do they belong to him?
Sie seien heilig. Is Toma. They are holy, and he is, what is Toma?
Well, dirty or cursed or not.
Clean.
Unclean, impure.
Impure.
Yes,
Impure. They
They
are holy, he is impure.
Right. Sie haben sich über geentfert auf Kiddush Hashem. Hat geschlossen a Bund mit dem Schotten. They had answered to the holy call of God.
Now they had yielded themselves to martyrdom. Kiddush Hashem is martyrdom.
Martyrdom.
And Ibn Entfern is to yield yourself up to your enemy.
And he had rebelled. And what is Schotten?
No, he had made a bond with Satan. Look at what his life is now.
And he had made a bond with Satan. Jakob hat mehr nicht gekonnt verzäumen dem Weg, die Machashabas Yoris. Can someone help with that? He was no longer able to know the path.
He was no longer able to fence in his way from the strange thoughts that he had. Machshavas Zoras, the thoughts of strange thoughts.
Machshavas Yoris.
Yaakov is very quiet.
Machshavas, yeah, the evil, yeah.
Foreign thoughts.
Foreign thoughts.
And
He's deep into it. He's deep into it. There's no doubt.
Verzäumen is to block out. He was not able to block out these foreign thoughts.
And foreign thoughts in this case would be thoughts about continuing his life with Wanda.
Yeah, lustful, related to his physical desires, their physical union, and he was not able to block those things out anymore.
Der Kopf seinen is given full mit allerlei demoines.
Jonas.
His head was filled with all kinds of demons.
No imaginations.
Mhm.
Oh, demoines.
Dimion. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Or fantasy, perhaps.
Narishkeiten, foolish things. Shalamoisen, what are those?
Trifles.
Trifles.
Yeah.
Hat sich ausgemalt, wie esst Kuchen, Fisch, gebrachtene Huhn, Marzipanis. He felt as though he was eating sweets and fish and cooked chicken and marzipan. Hat getrunken.
Marzipanus is like delicacies.
Aha. Hat getrunken Wein. He drank wine. I'm sorry.
Med.
Med, that's honey. Beer. Hat gefunden zwischen die Felsen, Dementen, Rändlich, geworrener Gewirr, gefahren in Carretes.
Mhm.
He drank wine and honey and beer, and he found himself amongst demented.
No. Rocks.
The
Between the
rocks, yeah.
rocks he found jewels, diamonds.
Oh,
And, yeah.
Rendlich. What are Rendlich?
That's
Gold
currency,
coins.
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 He'd become a rich person. Gefahren in and he was driving around in horse-drawn carriages.
Mhm.
These are all the fantasies
That he
that
has.
are going through his mind.
Yeah.
These are his machshavas zavos. These are his strange thoughts.
Okay, der Bagger zu wandern ist geworden so groß. The desire for wonder became so immense as the groß, as the north is a royston shire, that no sooner had she left the barn or hat schon wieder noch ihr gepaint. He longed right away. He started to long for her again. Azoi wie die neshama, azoi der guf, like the soul, so the body. Is geworden foil. He became is geworden foil. He became lazy. Gewollt liegen auf dem Geleger, and only wanted to lie on his bed. Hat ein Jahr mehr gelitten von der Kälte wie alle Jahr, and this year he suffered from the cold more than the previous years. So the same as his soul was afflicted, so was his body. When Jacob hat gehackt Holz, when he chopped wood, is in die Hack geblieben stecken in a Kletzel. When he was chopping wood, the axe was stuck in a log. Und hat sie nicht gekonnt herausnehmen, and he couldn't yank it free. Wenn hat abgeschafft Schnee von Häuf, when he had shoved away snow from the courtyard, is bald geworden mit. Right away he became tired und sich gemusst abruhen and had to take a rest. Wie äußerlich, how amazing, nur die Key, was hat allein aufgezogen, haben wie der Spirit sein Matzav, only the cars that he had raised, it's as if they felt his situation, within him wieder gespännig, and even they became rebellious, widerspännig. Etliche Mal by Melton, several times when he was milking them, hat ihm a Kuh getan a Stoiß mit dem Fuß, Ka pushed him with a foot, oder a Stoch mit dem Horn, or jabbed him with a horn. Der Hund hat auf ihm gebildet, the dog barked at him wie auf a Fremden, like at a stranger. Viele der Chalomas seien geworden anders. Even the dreams changed. Tata Mama haben aufgehört, sich anplätten to him. His parents stopped revealing themselves to him. Wie Nora is eingeschlafen, no sooner had he fallen asleep, is gewesen mit Wandern. He was reunited again with Wanda. Hat gewandert mit ihr über finstere Wälder. He wandered with her over dark fields, gekrochen in Highland, crept into caves, gesunken, Highland, gesunken in Abgründen, and they sank into abysses, rein in Gemäusechter, full mit Ippisch. They fell into muck, mire, full of dirt and smelly stuff, Unzucht and uncleanliness. Und so haben ihm noch gejagt, Schrotzim, and crawly things chased after him. He was obviously having nightmares, highest animals, zoitige, shaggy animals, knoidige, rolling in a ball animals, schlangendicke, kind of like serpents, I suppose creeping animals, behangen mit Wedeln, hung with tails, eiters. Eiters is an interesting word. It could either be a kuh hat an eiter, a cow has an udder, but an eiter is also pus. So I assume in this context, the animals are purulent, I don't know, torbes and bags. They haben geschwiegen mit gehadischer Keulus. They shouted with shrill voices. They haben auf ihm geschwiegen. They spat at him, geratzt. They gerotzt. They scratched him and gemeiket, and they vomited on him. Is aufgekommen von die Gräulen vergossen mit kalten Schweiß. He came up from the horrors, vergossen, poured over, covered, poured over with cold sweat, aber full mit Tava, but full of desire. Calling him hat die ganze Zeit gerufen, wandern. A voice within him called to wander all the time. Hat schon gemusst sich unter Koch nicht zu dem sich zu ihr in die unreine Tag. And he had to take on the strength, empower himself, not to approach her when she was having a period. Well, that's the end of that section. Maybe it's Yaakov now.
Die Levonne hat gescheint. The moon shone. Der Himmel ist gewinn ausgeleitert. Die Nacht hell wie Batog. The heavens were lit up. The night was bright as if it was daytime. Wenn Jakob ist gestanden bei der Tür von Scheir, hat gesehen die Berg herum auf Meilen weit. When Jacob stood at the door of the barn, he saw the mountains around for miles into the distance. Unter dem Zudeck von Schnee haben gegrint die Jodlers. Under the blanket of snow, the fir trees were green. Die Felsen über die Wälder haben ausgeguckt wie ein Meis in Tachrichin. The rocks the rocks over the in the forest looked as though they were the dead in winding sheets. Wie a chaya was hat sich gestellt kapoyer, like an animal which was placed kapoyer upside down.
Yeah, upside down. Yeah.
Wie versehenisch nicht von der Welt, like a monster which was not of this world. Von der Stillkeit in Dorf hat Jakoven geklungen in die Euren als Steiger wie Machnes Grillen wollten gegrillt unter den Schnee. From the silence in the village, it sounded to Jacob as if in his ears, it sounded in his ears as if hordes of crickets were chirping under the snow. Es hat nicht geschneit, aber von Mal zu Mal ist herabgefallen von der Heuch ein einzig Flitterl. It wasn't snowing, but from time to time, a single snowflake fluttered down, fell down from on high. A crow hat sich übergeweckt und getan a cracker. A crow woke up and cawed. Feldmais oder Wieslen, was behalten sich aus in der Schoppe oder in Kammer, haben sich genommen rieren. Field mice or weasels, which hid themselves in the shed or in a room, they began to move. Und die Behältnischen Steiger, wie sie wollten sich gericht, and the their hiding places, as if they were expecting, as svit plutsam wären Frühling, as if they were expecting that spring would suddenly arrive. Allein, Yaakov, hat euch gewahrt auf ein Nes. He himself, Yaakov, was also waiting for a miracle. Efter wird amol hayor der Sommer kommen gicher wie allemal. Perhaps this year the summer would arrive earlier than usual. Es ist doch alles in Gottes Hand. Everything is in God's hands. Kann heißen der Sohn herausgehen von Futterfass. He could tell the sun to go out of its case, wie in der Zeit von Avram Avinu, as had happened in the time of Abraham, our forefather. Aber verwemmen soll kivyochel weisen uns azoine nisim, but for whom, as it were, would such miracles appear? For him, Jaakoven, der heute, dem Neuef, for him, Yaakov, the sinner, the adulterer, had geguckt zu die Bämer in Häuf, and he looked at the trees in the yard. Die Sticker Schnee, was haben gehangen auf die Zweigen, haben ausgewiesen in der Nacht wie weiße Fruchten. The bits of snow that were hanging on the branches appeared in the night like white fruit. Schneeelig seinen gefallen von der Zwiet. Little bits of snow fell from them like as if they were flowers in bloom. Jakob hat ungespitzt das Gehör. Jakob pricked up his hearing. Was kommt sie etwas nicht? Was she not going to come? In der Chatte is schon lang finster. In the hut it was had been dark for a long time. Das Heisel hat rausgestarrt von dem Ungeschnitt wie a Schwamm. The little house jutted out from the embankment like a mushroom. Zumal hat vernommen von dort Schorchen, raid. Sometimes he imagined that he heard from there snoring or speaking. Oder hat sich das ihm bloß ausgedacht? Or did this simply, was he simply imagining this? Die Tür hat sich geöffnet und Wanda ist herausgekommen. The door opened and Wanda came out. Aber sie ist nicht Bovis und eingehielt in a shawl, but she was not barefoot and wrapped in a shawl, in a shawl. Wie gewöhnlich, as she usually was. Nor sie hat getrogen a Pelz, Schich, und gehalten a Stecken, but she was wearing a fur shoes and she was holding a stick in her hand. Sie ist gekommen zu Jakob und gesagt, she came to Jakob and she said, das Tatele is tot, the father has died. Jakob hat sich etwas abgerissen in Herz. Something tore in Jakob's heart. Wie soll? When? How? Is gegangen schlafen wie allemal. He went to sleep as he always did. Plötzlich hat getan a Knekht. Suddenly he groaned. Is ausgegangen wie a Hindel, and he died like a chicken. Wo gehst du? Huh? Where are you going? Noch Anteken, I'm going to Antek. A while seinen beide gestanden Schweigendigkeit. For a while, both of them stood in silence. Dennoch hat Wanda sich auf angerufen, and then Wanda called out. Jetzt wollen sich unheben für uns schlechte Zeiten. Now, bad times are going to begin for us. Antek is dir nicht kein Freund. Antek is not a friend of yours. Will dich opruimen. He wants to get rid of you. Was kann ich tun? So what can I do? Sei gewarnt. Just be warned. Wanda hat sich gelost gehen weiter, and Wanda began to walk away. Jakob ist gestanden und ihr noch geguckt. Jakob stood and he followed, he looked, he watched her go. Sie ist geworden als kleiner und kleiner, and she became smaller and smaller. Wie a kaikele in Schnee, like a ball or a marble in the snow. Wiewohl Wanda hat nicht geweint, hat Jakob gewusst, als das Gemüt is ihr bitter. Although Wanda was not crying, Jakob knew that her mood was bitter. Sie hat lieb gehabt dem Vater. She had loved her father. Im Jakoben hat sie oft gerufen Tatele, and she had often called him, Jakob, Tatele. Daddy, perhaps father. Jetzt is sie a Yesoima. Now she is an orphan. Was a Goy soll nicht haben, a Ruach, a Nefesh, jetzt is es a Reus und übergelost dem Guf. Whether a Gentile has a spirit, a soul, or not, now it had left the body and it had left the body. Aber wo is es jetzt? But where is it now? Noch in der Hütte? Was it still in the hut? Hat sich es schon aufgehoben in der Heuch? Had it already gone up into the heights? Efsher is a rois durch en koimen. Perhaps it had left through the chimney. Jakob had gewusst, as Leut die Dorfischmin hogim, darf jetzt reingehen, sagen die Mishpocha a paar Trostwörter. Yaakov knew that according to the village customs, he should now go into to the family and say some words of comfort. Hat gezegert, but he hesitated. On Wanda is die Chatte for him a nest von Schlangen. Without Wanda, the hut is like a nest of snakes. Sis im oil nicht gewinn klar, si megiston alpidin. And it wasn't clear to him whether he was allowed to do this according to the law. Hat sich von deswegen gelost reingehen, but nevertheless he he did go in to the hut. Had aufgelegt, aufgelenkt die Tür. He opened the door slightly. So schon da geglimmert a Knetel und a Schwebele. In a Schwebele. There
Sherbala.
was
A sherbala.
a Sherbele. There was in the a wick was shining in a little pottery dish. Die Alte und Basche seien gestanden inmitten Stub. The old lady and Basha were standing in the middle of the house. Auf dem Bett is gelegen Jan Bzik. On the bed, Jan Bzik was lying. Veränderte Gestalt, a changed figure. Das Ponim gel wie lame. His face was yellow as clay. Mit euren weiße wie kalk. His ears were as white as lime. Und mit a loch anstatt a moil. And his mouth was open like a hole. Es ist schwer gewesen zu glauben, als der dosige Guf hat erst nicht lang gelebt. It was difficult to believe that this body, not long ago, that this body was alive. Bloß in die zerneufgeknetschte Wies und in die Runzeln herum die Augen ist geblieben an Ähnlichkeit zum friedlichen Jan Bzik. Only in the tightly closed eyelids, and in the wrinkles around the eyes, there remained a similarity to the former Jan Bzik. So het geschwebt auf zij a schmeichel, they hovered above them a little smile. Von Emerson was hat sich der Wart etwas Ginzigs und spottisch. A smile of someone who was waiting for favorable, something favorable and mocking. Die Bzikige hat geton a heiseriken chlip. The Jan Bzik's wife had made did a horse
Horse.
sob.